here we are. Earlier we had some technical difficulties, but hopefully, really, was that necessary? I don't think it was. Earlier we had some technical difficulties. The connection kept timing out, kept saying we had a poor internet, this and that. So I said we'd regroup and try again later. So now it's later, and hopefully this works. Yes, dear. We're starting over again. Because the people out there was no way that they caught anything in any entirety of what I said. So the lesson doesn't make sense that way. So you start from the beginning.
To your left,
yes, it does.
you have Paul. To your
yeah,
left,
okay.
you have Paul.
So
Richard.
here, hopefully, if you're joining us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Twitch, you can thank Restream.io. If you can actually see us, you can thank our internet connection for working this time. Hopefully it's for the rest of this church service. This is Scriptural Salvation Baptist Tabernacle. My name is Andy. Welcome to my living room. To my left in the chair, I have Paul. Steve, I took home earlier. He said he'd be joining us. So I hope he is able to, wherever he's at, with his internet connection. Richard will be back here in a second. I think he went to go get a drink of water. To my right is my wife Liz in the yellow hat. Hannah's in the corner. There's Richard. Say hi, Richard. All right. Right off camera, you have Jacob and Grace. And Grace's special birthday is tomorrow. Like I said, she will be 6 years old.
No, 12. 35. No, 12.
And she's here on birthday, so Grace is special.
All right. Now, I would like to start with a song, and hopefully I'm able to get all the kinks out this time so that we can see the lyrics. But let's have to. There you are. Okay, so I have to go here. Oh, if I stand off to the side, you don't have me in the
camera showing your face like that.
Yeah. Hey, now.
That was Mom. That wasn't me.
No, don't start at the end of the song. Okay. Help if I turn on the sound. Okay. Now is the time to worship. Come. Now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your heart. Come. One day every tongue will confess you are God. One day every knee will bow. Still the greatest treasure remains for those who gladly choose you now. Now is the time to worship. Now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to love. Now is the time to worship. Come. Now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Come, That was different. It actually worked. No, you're not supposed to play that song when I tell you to stop. That was silly.
Not again.
Okay, continuing on, we are in our 18th lesson of Genesis. We've been following the life of Abraham, and since chapter 12 of Genesis, we're now into chapter 23. So the majority of what we've been learning about so far is Abraham, so he must be an important character. And last week we came to the conclusion that yes, Abraham is a flawed character. He has his weaknesses, he has his moments, but in the end, he is faithful to God and God loves him. And what that should tell us is that the heroes, the people that we look up to and that are set forth in the Bible, aren't perfect. And we don't have to worry about being perfect either. We are going to continue on with our lesson. We got a phone call.
Huh?
Yeah. All right. Like I said, it is lesson 18. We're working with chapters 23 and 24. And we will read through the song again.
Okay.
Oh my God, in you I trust. I do not be ashamed. Let not my enemies exult over me.
Indeed, none who wait for you shall be put to shame. They shall be ashamed who are wantonly treacherous.
Yep. So, wanton definitely has to do with wontons, and it's a Chinese food thing. I prefer the ones that are fried cream cheese. Those are my favorite ones. No, wanton is when you are just willy-nilly about the decisions that you make. So if you're wantonly treacherous, you're just doing it haphazardly. Grace Rose?
Make me to know your ways, O Lord. Teach me your
Yep.
that I know you.
Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all day long.
Like I said earlier, we will be continuing on with that song. No, I'm used to it. stand. All right, so chapter 23, as I said, it's a shorter chapter. We're not going to read through it. The important in it is we learn of Sarah, the wife of Abraham, passing. And the highlight of chapter 23 is Sarah lived to 127 years old. So how old was Abraham at this point?
127.
Yes, very good. She dies at 127 years old. After Isaac is born, um, Abraham goes to the Canaanite people living near him because he wants a grave site to be able to bury his wife in. He goes to the Hittites and he says, I want to buy a cave from you to bury my wife in. This land belongs to you. It's not mine. Right here. And what we see, if we were to read chapter 23, is it's ancient negotiation bickering. So it's kind of like going to the car salesman, right? So that is a painful experience, and when you get to that age, I hope it's as easy as it was for Abraham at this point.
Can you tell me the story about that?
The car salesman? Going to the car salesman is like going to Abraham. Yeah, okay. They try to take you for everything that you have. Now, so what the ancient practice was is if I owned something and you wanted to buy it from me, I would start off and say, you can have it for. Now, the acceptable thing, the thing that's supposed to happen is you're supposed to say to me, no, I'm not going to accept it for free. I urge you to name the price. Then the Hittites will offer a high number overpriced. And what was supposed to happen is Abraham was supposed to come back with a counter offer that was low so that you could work your way into the middle. Well, what Abraham does in this chapter is they offer him the high number, and he says, you know what, I'll take it. Sold. There's no negotiation. He didn't try to talk him down in price. He just went for it. What, honey?
If someone offered me something for free, I would say yes. Because I want something for free. I don't want to pay.
And there is the insight into present day thinking. But back here in the ancient customs, you were expected to decline the free offer.
Mm-hmm.
If I went to the car salesman and they offered me the car for free, I'd probably take it too. So,
I think everyone would.
Because I'm not in ancient Mesopotamia right now, I definitely, you're giving me the car for free, I would take it. He buys a place called the Cave of Machpelah near Hebron, where he had been living. And nowadays, there's a mosque built over the top of it. So unless you're a Muslim with access to the mosque, you can't get in there and see this cave. But is it really that important to go see this cave? Not really. Machpelah means double. Now, either the cave was extra big, or they called it double because the couples of the husband and wife of all the patriarchs were buried there. So Sarah was buried there first, and then his descendants buried Abraham there, and then Isaac was buried there with his wife, and then Isaac's son Jacob, after he comes back from the Exodus in Egypt, they bury Jacob and his wife there. So all of the couples of ancient Israel patriarchy are buried there. So maybe that's where the name Machpelah comes from. This is the only land that Abraham actually purchased and owned in the Promised Land. He lived by faith that God was going to give this land to his descendants, give it to them. He didn't have to buy it. So the only thing that he bought while he was there was this plot of land to bury his wife in. And the next chapter, like I said, is a long one. It's over 60 verses. So hold on tight. Buckle up. Bear with me. But we can do it.
All right, so you will read the first and then the 60th.
We are in Genesis chapter 24. We're going to start with verses 1 through 9. Oh, looks like I still got it so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't jinx it, Dad.
That's why I haven't said anything.
Verses 1 through 9. Let's see. What was that guy's name? Max McLean?
Genesis 24. Now Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to his servant, the oldest of his household, who had charge of all that he had, put your hand under my thigh, that I may make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and God of the earth, that you will not take a wife of my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell, but will go to my country and to my kindred, and take a wife of my son Isaac. The servant said to him, perhaps the woman may not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I then take your son back to the land from which you came? Abraham said to him, see to it that you do not take my son back there. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, and who spoke to me and swore to me, to your offspring I will give this land. He will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be only. You must not take my son back there. So he put his hand on his master and swore to him concerning his matter.
Back to the slideshow. Now, it seems like Abraham is making a deathbed request. He's acting like it's his last legs. You have to go and you have to find my son a wife, and you have to go here. You can't do it, from among the Canaanites. In all honesty, Abraham goes on to live another 40-something years from this point. He was trying to have urgency because his son Isaac was now almost 40 years old. So he wanted to make sure that the very important qualifications of his wife marrying a member of his family and not among the Canaanites was granted in time. Also, the man's like 137 years old. Does he really want to be traveling as far as he is? Probably not. The servant that Abraham brings in and says this to, you have to go and get my son a wife. He is an important servant. He has lots of responsibility. You wouldn't take a normal servant working your house and put this much responsibility on him and with this much things that he has to get right. This person is trusted by Abraham and very important to the family. Put your hand under my thigh. So, I know this sounds kind of strange. You wouldn't see two dudes trying to come to an agreement and put their hand under each other's thighs. But in the ancient Near East, this is how they solidified an oath. You make an oath to somebody by putting your hand under the other guy's thigh. Symbolism involved here is, to the ancient people, children were very important. And the way to make children was near the thighs. So if you're putting your hand on the thigh, you're putting your hand near the important part of the person that you're sharing the oath with. I don't think I'd ever let anybody put their hand that close to anywhere near there, but I'll stick to handshakes, thank you. But this is what they did. Like I said, it's an important area, it's sensitive, and it involves trust. You're making an oath with somebody, and you say something like, I swear to this or I swear to that, you're putting your hand nearest to something that's important to this person, you need to fulfill the oath that you're making. And that's what was going on here. Do I think it's a good idea and it'll make a comeback? Probably not. I don't picture people walking around grabbing each other's thighs. But maybe. I mean, they always say things cycle, and bell bottoms came back. Maybe the thigh grab will come back too.
I don't think so.
He entrusts the servant that you will not take a wife from the daughters of the Canaanites. Now, is it this simple? Does he just say, well, I don't like those people. I don't want you to pick a wife for my son from them? Or is there more to it? Obviously, there's more to it. There are two practical applications. In the book of Judges, when the Israelites are taking the promised land, they were told not to intermarry with the local Canaanites because it would make them a wicked people. They were supposed to drive them out. But the Israelites didn't listen, and they intermarried with the Canaanite people and seriously made them take a step back in their religious life. They didn't listen to things, and they fell into. Also, what it is, it takes us. Well, I don't know how far we got before we did that. I was almost done with that slide about the oath. I was talking about putting your hand under your thighs. Maybe it'll make a comeback. Abraham does not want the servant to take Isaac back to the land that he came from. He wants the servant, get your bed. Bed. Good girl. Sit. He gets, no, she just won't stay in one place. He's distracted. All right, stay there. Isaac is supposed to stay in the promised land, and the servant is supposed to bring the bride back to him. All right. Now let's go to the next piece. All right. And Abraham says that he's sending an angel out before him, and this is also what happened in the time when God tried to save, or Abraham tried to save Lot, tried to talk God out of destroying Sodom. So there's parallels there. Genesis 24, verses 10 through 21. Okay.
Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departed, taking all sorts of choice gifts from his master, and he arose and went to Mesopotamia to the city of Nahor. And he made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water at the time of evening, the time when women go water. And he said, O Lord, God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show steadfast love to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Let the young woman to whom I shall say, please let down your jar that I may drink, and who shall say, drink, and I will water your camels, let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love to my master. Before he had finished speaking, behold, Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her water jar on her shoulder. The young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden whom no man had known. She went down to the spring and filled her jar and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, please give me a little water to drink from your jar. She said, drink, my lord. And she quickly let down her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also until they have finished drinking. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran again to the well to draw water. And she drew for all his camels. The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether the Lord had prospered his journey or not.
Yeah, just so we can tell. You can stop me if I'm. Okay. You see where I changed the aspect ratio to?
Yeah.
You're the one that told me to do it. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that.
Abraham says the servants to go to the city of Nahor. Now, there really wasn't the city of Nahor. What that actually is Ur of the Chaldees, or Ur in Chaldea. But they gave it the name city of Nahor because Abraham's grandfather was named Nahor, and so is his brother. So two popular residents that lived there were named Nahor. So it was referred to as the city of Nahor. Now, Ur of the Chaldees is over here in Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and the Euphrates. And no, I'm trying not to. Abraham lived here in the Promised Land. Now, if you look here, it looks like there's a straight shot across the desert from the Promised Land over to Ur, but that's normally not how people traveled. They would have gone up into this land toward the Hittites and then swung down this way, following the Fertile Crescent.
Yeah, they want to go through the desert.
Because they wouldn't have traveled through the desert. So it would have made the journey a little bit longer. This is not a day trip. It ended up with the extra travel being about 1,000 miles instead of 500 straight shot. The servant would have left Abraham's home and started on his journey, and it would have taken him a few days to get there. And the first thing he does when he gets to Nahor, Ur of the Chaldees, is he gets down and he prays. He wants to put that entire trip, this whole mission, into God's hands. He wants to make it not on him whether it's successful or if it fails. He wants to put it into God's hands. So then there's this next piece where the servant's sitting there and he says, well, the ladies are about to come out and draw water, and I'm sitting here at the well. And maybe that sounds a little confusing. But what he's doing is next he talks about the one who offers me water and offers water to my camels, that person is going to be the bride. Now, sitting here in the modern context, we're thinking about this and we're like, why would the servant pick the bride from the person that comes out and gives him water? That could be anybody because of the hospital society. But what's actually happening is the servant wants to see what person is not only hospitable, who is kind, he also wants to see the person that's willing to go the extra mile by offering to water the camels. And what this does is the servant is putting a specific set of this extra piece on there to help choose the bride so that he knows that it's in God's hands. This is the ancient culture. It's about hospitality. When we learn in the Sodom and Gomorrah lesson was not just about hospitality, Sodom and Gomorrah, but that it was important to the ancient Near East. The servant has an important mission. He's looking for a bride for Isaac. What? I'm almost done. Sorry, you have to do it. Now, the servant's prayer is risky if it's done wrong. So, normally, a person wouldn't go into a situation and say to God, hey, look, if you do this, I want the outcome to be this, because it can be risky. But what this servant did is he set down the parameters beforehand and he was willing to follow them. He was laying it into God's hands because he did it before. He didn't do it. So he didn't get down to the water thing and he looks and he sees a beautiful woman. He goes, I want, when the beautiful woman walks over here and talks to me, that's the person I want to be the bride. No, he sets the parameters before the event happens and then the woman walks out. When the problem that most people do is when they pray for God to show them something, they either ignore the evidence or they ask for something impossible. That would be like the servant saying, and I want God Almighty to shoot down fire on the person that's going to be the bride. And that's just something that God wouldn't do.
No.
That's wrong.
No.
Yes. And then she has to walk away. Now, what this establishes is that God is in control. It establishes that God is in control. It establishes that the servant is not basing this on looks. He's looking for a certain person to be the bride to take home to Abraham and Isaac. He's looking for the person with a heart of a servant who's willing to help other people above and beyond. And before the prayer is done, the young woman walks out and she is very attractive in appearance. So before the servant is even done praying and putting out his guidelines for the bride he's going to choose, the person that's going to be the bride walks out and the servant sees her. Now, the Bible says that she was attractive in appearance. There are not many women that the Bible says are attractive in appearance. Sarah was one of them. Rebecca is one of them. Esther is one of them. And they're one of the brides that David ends up killing somebody for to take. She's said as beautiful as well. Then the servant ran to meet her. So he's sitting there and he sees a woman coming and he wonders if it's her. So he runs over there to meet her. He's testing to see if she was the one. He wanted to see if she fit the criteria. there were clauses and safeguards if it wasn't her. There were possibilities that he could ask for a drink and she would say, yeah, right, buddy, you don't deserve a drink of water. Or she could just give him the drink of water and walk away and not do the second part about watering the camels. Or, she could say she was going to do something and then pour the water on it. I mean, there were safeguards here. The servant had a way to know if Rebecca wasn't it. She waters him first, and then she runs as fast as she can to water the camels. Now, think of this for a second. How much does a camel drink?
A lot.
Gallons and gallons. How long would it take for her to water 10 camels? At least an hour,
I think longer.
if not longer. It would have taken her a long time, but she did. She was willing to serve the servant and show her hospitality and water his camels. You think that every woman that walked out of that village would have done that?
No.
No. And that's what this servant was looking for, is somebody that was willing to go above and beyond and had a heart for helping other people. We're going to listen to verses 22 through 28.
Okay.
Verses 22 through 28.
When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold ring weighing a half shekel, and 2 bracelets for her arms weighing 10 gold shekels, and said, "Please, tell me whose daughter you are. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night?" She said to him, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor." She added, "We have plenty of both straw and fodder, and room to spend the night." The man bowed his head and worshipped the Lord and said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his steadfast love and his faithfulness toward my master. As for me, the Lord has led me in the way to the house of my master's kinsman." Then the young woman ran and told her mother's household about these things.
Okay. The man took a gold ring weighing a half shekel. Now, 1 shekel was about 0.3 pounds. So a half of a shekel is about 0.13 pounds. I'm not being exact here.
0.015.
Now, this version, he says he gave her a gold ring. Now, some versions of the Bible, the King James Version, the NIV version above others, say that he gave her a gold nose ring. The ESV, which we read, the Holman Christian Standard Bible, the Orthodox Jewish Bible, identify this jewelry as just a ring. The Wycliffe Bible, Wycliffe was a man who translated the Bible from Latin into English so that people that didn't read Latin back in the 1300s could actually read the Bible in English. And Wycliffe said that this was an earring. Okay, maybe. My favorite has to be the Geneva Bible from 1599, where they called it an habiliment, which is a Middle English word that comes from the French that has something to do with medieval armor.
I think he gave her the armor.
Piece of, a ring off of the chainmail or something. I mean, here's your habiliment. Well,
I don't think they made those back then.
what's interesting is that the Geneva Bible, to give you a little bit of a backstory, was the Bible that the Puritans used. The Puritans being ultra religious, ultra conservative, didn't even want to think about jewelry because to them, having any type of adornment like that was being ridiculous. So they translated it as a biolement, but they had a note in their Bible that says God permitted many things, both in apparel and other things which are now forbidden. Basically, the Puritans were strict, plain modesty, and they were all hard work. You've heard of a Puritan work ethic? That's what these people did. They worked from sun up to sundown. Never had a moment of fun, because when you had fun, it made you forget about what was important in life or something. I don't know. Does any of this matter one bit? No.
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 One bit. Does it matter if the Bible says it for earring or finger ring or a toe? Does it? No, it doesn't matter at all. But what this does is all the Bible say was a different thing. And Scott together to sit down and say, well, the Bible's not right because it calls it a toe ring or an earring instead of a nose ring. Your Bible calls it biolement because you're making fun. And it's scholars and don't get yourself free about this little mini stuff. Because later on, this debate is actually settled. It makes more sense later on. I'll tell you exactly what it would have been. But our book says that he took a gold ring and he gave her bracelets as well. He's still checking her servitude, her caring heart, and her hospitality. That's why the servant is there. He's happy that he didn't just find any random person. He found family to Abraham to come back and be the bride to his son Isaac. Verses 29 through 36. We're doing good on time? Yeah, we're doing good. I know, we got up early this morning.
You guys got up early this morning?
I get up early every morning. So.
I do, I know that.
Verses 29 through 36.
Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. Laban ran out toward the man to the spring. As soon as he saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms, and heard the words of Rebekah his sister, "Thus the man spoke to me," he went to the man, and behold, he was standing by the camels at the spring. He said, "Come in, O blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside? For I have prepared the house and a place for the camels." So the man came to the house, and unharnessed the camels, and gave straw and fodder to the camels, and there was water to wash his feet, and the feet of the men who were with him. Then food was set before him to eat, but he said, "I will not eat until I have said what I have to say." He said, "Speak on." So he said, "I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has greatly blessed my master, and he has become great. He has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male servants and female servants, camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and to him he has given all that he has."
Nice yawn on screen, Richard.
Yeah, good thing we have that new camera that zooms right in on your face as you yawn.
I've talked to you about that.
Now, we learn officially that the bride's name is Rebecca, and the way that it's spelled is different than the way that your grandmother spells it, but it's still the same thing. Now, Rebecca means tied up, and we're not talking about sadomasochism here. We're not saying that Rebecca.
It's different.
She is servitude here, but we're not saying that binding and tying and whips and chains and all that. But we are. What this is an idiom, and tying up in this sense is talking about securing. She isn't going to run away if she's tied up. That's what this word is going for. Oh. Well, right. Now, Rebecca has a brother named Laban. Earlier, we had said that her father Bethuel is alive. Laban comes out to speak for his sister. He is possibly the family spokesman, so he's leading this card leadership. So he goes out there and says, "I will talk to you and try to get you to not only take my sister, but I'll throw in the Vegematic and the toaster too."
Vegematic and toaster.
Bad information. Anyway, it slices, it dices, it julienne fries. You're not old enough. Obviously, I've got the wrong audience here, people. If you're my age, you know what I'm talking about. Just set it and forget it. Apply and let dry. I've heard them so many times. So many times. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you how much those bracelets weighed. They were 10 shekels. They weighed a quarter pound. So,
I don't understand the measurement system.
You said you were almost done.
Off yours.
now, the brother Laban, it says, as soon as he saw the ring and the bracelets, now Laban is worried about the material stuff. He goes, "Wow, I want this stuff. Is this rich guy coming here going to give more?" And they offer him to come in and eat and shower him with gifts. Hopefully, he'll give them more stuff. And the servant says, "I will not eat until I have said what I have to say." To him, his mission is his primary goal. He needs to get Rebecca and take her back to his master Isaac. Laban is providing general hospitality by letting them stay in his house and feeding the camels overnight and giving them food to eat. But his motives are probably that he wants the guy to stay there so he can get more out of him. The servant then tells them that I'm the servant of Abraham, who is one of your family members. We've been gone for several years, but Abraham is blessed. He's got all these things in his house. He has a son named Isaac, and I want Rebecca to come back and to be the bride. Now, later on in the piece that we're not actually going to be listening to or reading, the servant says, "I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her arms." So the nose probably was a nose ring, but the Bible that we have doesn't say nose ring. But does that mean it's wrong? No. That's nonsense. To get into those kind of squabbles is ridiculous. Now we're going to skip to verses 49 through 59, because basically what happens is the servant just repeats the story that he had told that had already happened. With I was waiting for the woman to come out and water the camels and give me drink, and he basically tells the same story, everything that we just read. So we don't have to listen to it. We'll skip to the response.
All right.
So we jump from verse 36 to verse 49.
Oh yes, 7:30.
Okay, time code 7:30. I was going to ask you to remember that for me, Paul. 7:33, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Turning fast.
All right. Time code. Oh, 2 minutes. All right.
For the for his son. Now then, if you are going to show steadfast love and faithfulness to my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The thing has come from the Lord. We cannot speak to you bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken. When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself to the earth before the Lord. And the servant brought out jewelry of silver and of gold and garments, and gave them to Rebekah. Also gave to her brother and to her mother costly ornaments. And he and the men who were with him ate and drank, and they spent the night there. When they arose in the morning, he said, "Send me away to my master." Her brother and her mother said, "Let the young woman remain with us a while, at least 10 days. After that she may go." But he said to them, "Do not delay me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away that I may go to my master." They said, "Let us call the young woman and ask her." And they called Rebekah and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" She said, "I will go." So they sent away Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men.
Okay. Hold on tight. We're almost there. Okay. Verses 37 through 48 are a retelling of how the servant is telling Rebecca's parents and brother how he prayed to God for a woman to come out and do these exact set of things, and how Rebecca did them. And we don't need to hear it because we already did. We were there. If you are going to show steadfast love, now the servant stays focused. He's like, well, I want you to give me an answer on if I can take this woman back to be a bride. Answer me now. Now, the brother, Laban, says this thing has come from the Lord. What this shows us is it's the divine sovereign plan. We've talked about how God has his hands in things and has his plan, and it's not for us to understand it completely, but even these people recognized that this was God's plan. And in here it mentions Bethuel, who is the father of Rebekah. The servant goes back and gets more gifts and gives them to Rebekah and to the family, and this is the ancient custom of a dowry. And what this shows is that the family that wants to marry the bride shows the bride's family that he's able to care for the woman. It's something I would think I have to. I think I'll have to tell a 10-year-old, not my. Anyway, the dowry shows that the husband's family is able to take care of the wife in place of the wife's family. After all this, the servant goes in for a feast, and they stay for a night. The servant wakes up the next morning. The first thing he says is, "I'm ready to leave. Send me away to my master." He's still focused on his mission. He knows he has to complete this because it's important to Abraham. The family, Bethuel and Laban, try to delay the servant leaving. Have her stay another 10 days and you can rest and relax and we'll feed your camels. And most likely their motivations are to get more gifts out of this guy because they know that Abraham is rich. But Rebecca knows that her duty and obligation is to her new family with Isaac, so she makes the right decision to leave.
Hey, Hannah.
Thanks, Paul. Actually, it was blind.
Oh,
We're going to listen to the last 6 verses, all right? Verses 60 to 66.
And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, "Our sister, may you become thousands of 10,000s, and may your offspring possess the gate of those who hate them." Then Rebekah and her young women arose and rode on the camels and followed the man. Thus the servant took Rebekah and went his way. Now Isaac had returned from Beer Lahai and was dwelling in the Negeb. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field toward evening. And he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, there were camels coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from the camel and said to the servant, Who is that man walking in the field to meet us? The servant said, It is my master. So she took her veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. And Isaac brought her into the tent of Sarah his mother, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
That's okay. Not hugely important story. Now, we will finish off. The little poem that the family says to Rebekah, they say, May you possess the gate of your enemies. And I thought this was interesting because all along God had promised things to Abraham. I will bless your family. I will make you as numerous as the sand. I will make you as numerous as stars in the sky. And then he says, I will make you possess the gate of your enemies. And this is the same thing that Rebekah's family says to her. May your offspring possess the gate of your enemies. Is it important? No, I just thought it was interesting. We come back to the Negeb, which is in southern Israel. Isaac was not living in Bethel or Hebron by the cave of Machpelah. He had moved south into southern Israel, closer to Egypt. When she sees who is going to be her husband, she takes her veil and she covers up. And what this tells us is that she wants to be modest and doesn't want to be selfish and thinking about herself. She wants to be special for her husband. Now, the themes here in this chapter is definitely the one of master. The servant that Abraham sends keeps saying, I want to do this for my master, I want to do this for my master. And we, as God's servants, have to remember what our mission is to serve our master, but also remember that it is God's providence or God's will that certain things happen for a reason. And that's what the theme of this chapter is. It's not just the story of how Isaac ends up with Rebekah. It's a story about masters, servants staying on your task and mission and looking for God's guiding hand. It's not, like I said, it's not just a quick hookup tale or a dating story. Yep. Okay. And we will finish on a hymn, Great is Thy Faithfulness. I have it here on the CD player I bought to be able to listen to CDs because my computer does not have a disk drive. So, bear with me here. It's this one. I should have little subtitles. Yep, that's it. Wow, that is ridiculous. Okay.
It should have been black.
Is thy faithfulness, Lord God, my Father? There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever wilt be. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new
mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Summer and winter, and springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars in their courses above, join with all nature in manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Lord, unto me. How I worship you, Lord. Pardon for sin and a peace that endureth. Thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide. Strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. Blessings all mine, 10,000 beside. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Well, with that, we have made it to the end of this week's service. Hopefully, you're able to get something out of that with all the constant stops and starts. I felt like I was driving in the old Kia that we own.
Okay.
That's a kind of bad car salesman joke. Anyway, no, it's lost. You're gonna have to watch some old infomercials. Look up Ron Popeil.
Why am I watching this on my phone?
You'll get caught up on what I was talking about. Slices, the julienne fries.
I heard it was ISIS and
Oh, now Jacob Andrew.
What does ISIS
Now,
have to do with
dices, slices, dices.
Okay, Dad, that's enough.
Now,
ISIS and Julius Christ.
We're talking about the Bible, not that nonsense. So get to the point.
We're talking about ISIS.
everybody, like I said, I hope you were able to learn something out of that. Hopefully, you were able to piece something together. I'm going to look at my options for next week, see if maybe there's something I can do to help that. Maybe it just won't happen next week, and maybe we'll be good, and it'll be in God's hands, and we'll be able to have church at our normal time. I hope you all have a great week. Pray for all those that are hurting. Remember to stick to your task as God's servant and follow through with the mission that you're given because it is God's will. Thank you and good.